Que lo que mi gente, welcome to the Monoplaza F1 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Emir, and this week we are covering the Japanese Grand Prix. Wow. What a something. What an event. Yeah, I think that I speak for a lot of people when I say that this race was kind of I don't know. I don't know if you want to use the adjective snooze fest. I don't know if it was just like not exciting or whatever. Anyways, like it falls down to a couple categories. There are a couple groups of people, or a couple groups of people that enjoyed this race. Group number one, if you are a Max Verstappen fan, you loved the hell out of this race. You saw Max Verstappen get a pole seemingly out of nowhere in not even crazy conditions. So he just pulled that time out of nowhere. Great. Proceeded to go win the race and never was really in danger of being overtaken on track or being overtaken on pits or strategy. Great. Group one, Max Verstappen wins. You love this race. Group number two, if you're a McLaren hater, you truly enjoyed the Japanese Grand Prix because you said, hey, they still cannot get their stuff together, their ish together. And so, yeah, group number two, you hate McLaren. And so you absolutely love this race. Group number three, you are a fan of one of the rookies, and neither of those rookies or none of those rookies are named Jack Doohan, Liam Lawson, or Gabriel Bortoleto, right? If you are a fan of Antonelli, if you're a fan of Hadjar, you absolutely love this race. And finally, the people who may have enjoyed this race were those who are just fans of Suzuka, the Japanese Grand Prix. Obviously, it's a very historic track. And so you love watching races here. You love it because it's technical. You love it for XYZ reason. It doesn't matter. So those four groups really enjoyed this race. Everybody else, this was dusty race. It was Sahara Desert. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was very. Oh man, it was just not a good race. In my opinion, right? And obviously they all can't be uh the pinnacle of motor racing. So I completely understand. But this felt more like Monaco than it felt like the Japanese Grand Prix. A curious fact about what's been going on this year is that whoever has gotten pole has proceeded to win whatever race is on. Right, you go back to Australia, Lando Norris, P1, boom, done. You go back to round two, that's China in the sprint. Lewis Hamilton, my man, my guy, the goat, got the pole for the sprint quali and ended up winning the sprint race. For the race, Oscar Piastri, on his way to victory, broke a lap record held by Lewis Hamilton, got the pole, got the win. In Suzuka, Max Verstappen got the pole, got the win. So it's curious. I don't know if that's going to be a trend moving forward. I truly hope not, because that is going to be one long Monaco esque season. But yeah, it's very interesting that, and I'll get into it, I guess, now. The tires are those that Pirelli made, these tires that you have your softs, and the softs can't really deal with a lap, and so they're only good for quali. You get that quali lap in, those fast laps in, those flying laps in, whatever phrase or adjective you want to use. You get that pole, and it's done. Completely useless during the race. They just don't last, right? But then you have Pirelli's other tire compounds, the mediums and the hards, that are completely, for whatever reason, indestructible. Everybody's been resurfacing all their tracks, so maybe that's why. I don't know. In any case, the tires have caused this to be a type of race where basically people are pitting because they have to. There's a mandatory, at least you have to go into the pits one time and finish the race, having pitted at least one time and having been put on a different compound, right? You saw that primarily by the simple fact that Kimi Antonelli was able to make those mediums last basically until, don't quote me on this, probably around lap 30, lap 35 ish. it doesn't really matter what lap it was. The point is those mediums lasted way longer than they needed to. The mediums were also like super weird because in this race, it turns out that the mediums had terrible pace when compared to the hards, but also really was car dependent apparently. But in any case, the fact that these tires were like this, are like this, made it so that the race was not super the duper exciting. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Suzuka's just a track that, hey, it's very hard to pass on here, whatever it is. That's recently, right? We've seen some great races here, primarily races that are in the rain, um, and championships have been decided here. All of those things, right? But this one was not. This was not it. This was not. No, it was not. It was not a great race. But before I go down that rabbit hole and just bore everybody to death, I guess let me start off by saying uh, first and foremost, and because I have to, just right. Anyways, first and foremost, congratulations to Max Verstappen for winning the Japanese Grand Prix. It was a dominant showing. It took some skill to bring that car. Now, self correction on myself from something that I was saying in the previous podcast, which is Max Verstappen is dragging that car. No, actually, it turns out that car is actually pretty good. Right? It just turns out that in the hands of Liam Lawson, it was pretty terrible. I said what I said. Sorry. But in any case, he had a dominant weekend, had some tricky practices, but ultimately, when it mattered most, primarily the quali, he got it done. P1, sprint pole, or not sprint pole, quali pole, whatever, and he got it. So, yes, congratulations to him. Congratulations to Red Bull. He continues to say or show that in order for you to win this championship, you have to go through him still. We were told that McLaren would be the fastest car, and they have shown that they have the fastest car. However, strategy blunders and whatever other thing you want to say means that unless they get their stuff together, right, we're 3 races in, all right? If they do not adjust and course correct soon, and I'll get into this later, Max Verstappen is well on his way to win a very hard fought but 5th consecutive championship. So, yeah, I don't know. And so let's get into it right now. The qualifying was one where McLaren definitely had the pace for it. Again, Max just pulled that one out of. I don't even know how to explain this to y'all. Max pulled it out of um, just left field. And if I go to, let me see if I can go to the qualifying. The qualifying for this was just kind of crazy. So Max qualified with a time of 1:26.983. It's a course record for Suzuka, which had previously been held by Sebastian Vettel. And just to give you an idea how close everything was, Lando Norris qualified P2 and he had a time of 126.995. So that's a difference of 0.012. And then Oscar Piastri qualified 127.027 in top 3. And so I'm mentioning these times to say that really the McLarens obviously were able to get P2 and P3 in the qualifying, but they were not able to put a lap together that was able to get out in front of Max Verstappen. Now the car throughout the race, it was shown that at least in sectors 1 and 2, the McLarens were faster. Sector 3 of that circuit, Max was fastest. But the story of McLaren really was they, I don't know if you want to say that they fumbled the strategy again. Do with it what you will. So first, instead of pitting, to overtake on the pits, right? They decided to go ahead and bring Oscar Piastri in before Max. Okay, it's kind of weird. They was like, no, we're bringing Oscar in to cover for Mercedes, which George Russell or Charles Leclerc, right? Okay, cool. Super weird. Then when Max pitted, they went ahead and pit Lando Norris. And that to me was when the race was decided ultimately, because when they pit them in, Lando comes in into the pits right after Max. McLaren was not able to get a quick enough pit stop to get Lando out in front of Max. Then there was an issue. Max comes out in front of Lando, and that basically was the entire race, right? It was Lando Norris chasing Max Verstappen. I think the closest he ever got to Max was like a second and like 0.0987 or 0.09. It didn't really make a difference, right? He was basically chasing and they were pushing. And I think what was very, 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 very frustrating for those of us watching is that it seemed it seemed that throughout that race, Oscar Piastri had better pace than Lando Norris did, right? And he's on the radio and he's saying, "Hey, uh, if Lando is going to push, he should push now." Or he's asking, "Hey, if this is all Lando has, I think my pace is better." Yada yada yada, this, that, and the third. Now, post race, we'd find out a bunch of different things. I will say during the race, I was also very frustrated because it did seem like Oscar was able to get basically right behind Lando, 0.387, 0.405, 0.583, whatever it was, super, super close to Lando. But it seemed while you were watching the race that it was essentially like, hey, Oscar, you're going to have to sit tight behind Lando. You're not going to pass Lando. It was a soft team order. Again, that's just what it seemed like to me when I was watching the race. It was super, super frustrating. Post race, the story is a little bit different. You find out that actually Lando was conserving his tires for whatever reason, and that's the only reason that Oscar Piastri was able to get that close to him, which that that seems so asinine to me because why are you conserving your pace, sir? In the final stint, you have zero graining. The team is telling you, hey, you have it, go ahead and push. So that was weird. Okay, but whatever. I choose to believe McLaren. I don't know why. Whatever. But the actual thing or the actual reason, when you look at the telemetry, you saw that yes, Oscar was able to make up ground to Lando in either the first or second sector, but lost time to Lando in the final sector, right? So it's one thing to get close to Lando, it's another thing to be able to pass Lando. Now, um, if the season continues going how it is going, then Oscar will need to sort out his qualifying because unless he out qualifies Lando, he's going to be stuck behind Lando, or he's going to have to make some move, or the team's going to make sure that, hey, team orders, Oscar, you need to stay behind Lando. Very demoralizing, I'm sure, but Oscar will need to sort out his qualifying. Otherwise, this is going to be it. Meanwhile, while those two are fighting, they're not necessarily taking points off each other, but they're not really preventing Max Verstappen from being able to finish under them or make enough of of a hard step or get ahead of Max to a point where they're giving themselves a cushion. That's currently not happening. So they're gonna have to figure out. Uh, I don't know. Again, they're gonna have to figure out what's gonna happen or what's gonna have to happen. And Oscar, for that to be able to be good, Oscar is going to have to sort that qualifying. Either that, or we're gonna get to some other tracks throughout the year where qualifying, yes, you qualified first, but it's not going to make a difference. Right now, 3 races in, like I said, whoever qualified P1 finished the race P1. So they're 3 for 3 on that, right? But yeah, that was honestly that was pretty much the race. I don't really know how else to put it. Hey, this episode is actually not going to be that long because if you were watching this race, whether you were on that side of the world, this side of the world, you basically saw a long procession. There were not a ton of overtakes. In the top 10 overtakes on tracks, there was only one that I can think of, and that was Lewis Hamilton on Isack Hadjar, and that was pretty much it. So I'm going to try and break it down again a little bit. The story for me was McLaren was not able to aggressively go after Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen does what a champion does, and he was able to win, right? Cool, full stop. If this is how the season is going to play out, then everyone make sure to not miss a qualifying session on Saturday. Otherwise, yeah, There was no safety car. We thought there was going to be rain. There was no rain. We thought, hey, maybe there's going to be another fire on the grass. Nope, because guess what? It had rained prior to and overnight, so the grass was moist enough for it to not make a difference. Again, I'm probably going to keep mentioning this. It wasn't terribly exciting. So, what was exciting were things that were happening, not necessarily on the track, but things that started off the track. Obviously, we come into the race, and this was Yuki Tsunoda's debut with Red Bull. Amazing. Yuki has been yapping for a long time, and honestly, rightfully so. He had outqualified and outperformed anybody that they put in front of him. Nick DeVries, gone. Daniel Ricciardo, gone. Liam Lawson, gone. And Isack Hadjar, yeah, not necessarily gone, but he was also qualifying him. So what we saw was in between China and Japan, the worst kept secret on the paddock was that Yuki Tsunoda was going to replace Liam Lawson, and sure enough, after China, it happened. Great, awesome, love that. Now, I will be honest in that I was maybe one of those that felt like, Yuki, you are doing really good in the Visa Cash App or the V Card. And I think maybe you should just sit tight. However, hindsight is always 2020. Yuki Tsunoda really doesn't have much of an option. He doesn't have a contract for next year. And it doesn't look like VCARB is going to renew that contract. I don't actually know if that's the case. I just know that it's probably going to be harder for Yuki Tsunoda to stay with VCARB or in the Red Bull family once Honda goes to Aston Martin. Aston Martin's probably not going to have a spot for Yuki because it's either going to be Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso, or it's going to be driver gone, insert Max Verstappen and a partner. So I don't think Alonso is going to be gone next year. I think next year might be his last. Who knows? Okay, so Alonso, if he somehow gets kicked off the team and they get Max Verstappen, great. If something ridiculous happens and Lance Stroll decides, oh, I'm done, then yeah, you could have a Max and Alonso. Everybody's talked about that, right? But the point that I'm trying to make is there's no place for Yuki Tsunoda to go. And so, rightfully so, I understand now what Yuki is doing. He's essentially gambling on himself. He's showing everybody else, all the other teams on the paddock, hey, you put me in that Red Bull seat, look how I can perform. And if he does great, Red Bull could either, hey, Yuki actually is doing really good. We're going to actually sign him for another contract, even though Honda is not our engine manufacturer anymore. Okay, cool. If Yuki does terrible, again, it's early on in the season, he could spin it as, hey, that car really actually is not that great, and it's actually geared towards Max Verstappen. He could try that. Of course, Checo tried to do that last year, and it did not go super well. So in order for that to work out for Yuki, he's going to have to stick with Max, do better than Checo did last year, and essentially have Max complain about the car just as much as he would complain about the car. But again, I don't think that's what he's trying to do. Again, I feel like Yuki Tsunoda really is just gambling on himself, and he's essentially saying, hey, you put me in that car, watch me perform. And if it pans out, great. If he gets signed by Red Bull for next year, awesome. If he doesn't, then at least he ideally or feasibly would have done so good and so well this year that other teams would take notice. So again, it was super great to see. And frankly, practice one, Yuki did an amazing job. Practice two, we did not get a ton of times that were indicative of anything, mostly because Jack Doohan, which I'll talk about in a second, Jack Doohan had a crazy shunt in FP2, which basically red flagged it. Okay. On top of that, once the session resumed, then there was grass fires, which caused another red flag session for that race. And Yuki ultimately finished super low, FP2. FP3, things were a little bit closer, right? Awesome. In the interim, Yuki, of course, not necessarily any pressure. I think that Red Bull intentionally, I think so. This is not a crazy leap. Probably brought Yuki on in Japan because, hey, it's his home course. He's most familiar with this. Let's bring him in. He's familiar with the course. He's semi-familiar with the car. He certainly cannot do terrible. And I'm even thinking next week, the race in Bahrain, Yuki should perform well there too because it's a known course. They literally got done doing testing there several weeks back, right? But again, Yuki has to finish better or perform better than, Liam Lawson, and has to score enough to be able to keep Red Bull at least in the contention. Now, Christian Horner, they interviewed him. He's basically speaking like the constructors is not a foregone conclusion, but too far out of the realm of possibility. They could surprise anybody, right? Maybe both of them perform at a level that is racking up points for Red Bull, but for the time being, they have to make up ground to McLaren's got 111 points, followed by Mercedes that has consistently been doing well, and then after Mercedes is Red Bull, so they definitely got their work cut out for them, right? So yeah, that happened. Obviously, it was a little bit awkward for Liam Lawson. I spoke about how no love lost with Liam Lawson. Again, the humanity in me says terrible, terrible, terrible for that to happen to Liam. I thought maybe they should have given him at least another race, but frankly, like, oh well. Liam is not out of F1. Liam is now in V-Carb, and he's getting a chance to prove himself there in a car that, frankly, I actually think that the V-Carb, I'm not going to say that it's better than the RB21, but it's not a terrible car either, right? And by the way, while Yuki's out there trying to prove himself, Liam's out there trying to prove himself, the rookie Isack Hadjar has more points than both of them. I'm not saying, but I'm saying. So that was an interesting story to watch. We'll see what happens with Yuki as the season progresses. Doctor Muerte, alias Helmut Marko, has said Yuki is there for the rest of the season. Now, I did see an interesting quote from Franz Tost, the former AlphaTauri TP, who basically said Liam could race for 100 years and he would never touch Yuki. Hey. Shout out to Franz for having Yuki's back from left field, honestly. Okay, so yeah, again, if that was an interesting take, then you fall into that group of I really am a fan of the track. I'm tossing Yuki into that because as a Japanese driver, this is his home circuit. So yes, you were really excited about this race because you're a huge Yuki Tsunoda fan. So I guess maybe a fourth, maybe a fifth group. Cool, awesome. Storylines that I think were actually interesting to watch. How about Andrea Kimi Antonelli? He continues to do really, really well and is paying dividends. For Mercedes, it's looking like, Torger made a great decision bringing that kid in early. I really like him. Again, at least 1/3 of my heart is there because I haven't cut ties with Mercedes completely. It is what it is. Mercedes doesn't know who I am. Unless you do. And if you do, hey, that's great. Why haven't you subscribed? And by the way, let me take the opportunity. If you're watching, if you have stuck around this long, please don't forget, comment, like, subscribe. It costs you nothing to do so. And it certainly helps my channel out to get out to more people. So please do that if you're enjoying it so far. All right. So yeah, Kimi's been doing really great. Has consistently scored points in every race, top 10 finish, all the above, right? I think what is a little bit annoying to me is that Kimi is being, it's not annoying, they're comparing him, hey, this is the greatest start for a rookie since Lewis Hamilton, but the points were a little bit different, and you had more races there. Records are meant to be broken, but I'm just, it's a caveat. I'm sure somebody somewhere is going to tear that down, but like, it's very interesting that the benchmark for a lot of things is still Lewis Hamilton, and yet people refuse to consider him to go. Okay, whatever. Rant over. But yeah, very, very, very happy with the performance that Kimi has put out. He had the fastest lap. They don't give points out for that anymore, which I think is kind of sad. I mean, I know it's just like a measly point, but Kimi had the fastest lap of this race, so that's great. Second rookie, I thought that was doing really well. Again, another storyline was Isack Hadjar. Isack had, honestly, he is one of God's strongest warriors. For those who don't know, Isack was dealing with seatbelt issues. And really what was going on was that the seatbelt in Isaac's seat were mashing up his manhood. All right? It was causing discomfort. Me personally, I can't imagine what it would be like to have those seatbelts be strapped into that seat. My manhood is all mashed up. And I've got however many G's, and I still got to put in time. So honestly, shouts out Isack Hadjar for doing all of that. And then the race then the race starts, and something must have happened during the reconnaissance lap, because then the seat was super loose. So hey, VCAR, you have from now until I think Wednesday, whenever the car arrives in Bahrain, to sort that man's seat out. But shouts out Isack Hadjar. I really like that kid too. He's doing super well. Very in tune, definitely has bounced back since Australia, and we could finally put that behind us. Rookie mistake, quite literally. And so, yeah, super happy. Another rookie that continues to impress is Ali Behrman, who has finished ahead of Esteban Ocon. I think this is not he hasn't done that a lot, but he did finish in front of Ocon and scored points for Haas. So he's been doing really good in a car that he is somewhat familiar with, because he did drive it once in Brazil last year when K-Mag was out. But yeah, those three rookies seem to be the top rookies out of the new batch that we have, right? Again, for me, Liam Lawson is not a true rookie. I'm taking that he's not a true rookie. Yeah. Technically, yes, he could be. Now, I'm not going to fully dismiss Gabi Bortoleto, because frankly, he's driving Kick Sauber. That car is so slow. So slow. That kid is doing really well. For me, the benchmark for Gabi is going to be how he is performing against Nico Hulkenberg. And it's a toss-up between the two right now, right? Like, they are doing the most that they can with that car. We shall see what happens next year when Audi takes full control of that team. Yeah. The rookie I think that is right now in peril, and I said earlier that I was going to go back to this, is Jack Doohan. So Jack Doohan, again, everyone knows the rumors. He supposedly doesn't have that many races to prove himself. By all accounts, he's got Bahrain and Saudi Arabia after this to prove himself. And if he does not do well, it looks like Franco Colapinto would be taking over. And to make matters worse, it looks like Franco did a secret test in Monza. And by the way, if it's truly a secret test, then why do I know about it? I don't know. Sorry. That's corny. It's dad joke. Sorry. My bad. Anyways, and so Doohan, I think, is very interesting because he had a very terrible crash in FP2 this weekend. What was surprising about that is when you look at the replay, you can see that the DRS is still wide open going into 130. Okay? 130R. Now, it would later be reported, supposedly, this was caused by driver error because he left that DRS open. The report, though, says that Doohan had been in the simulator and he saw that you could take that corner with DRS wide open. It would give you good exit speed. It would add some extra tenth here or there. So he tried it in the simulator. It seemed to have worked well in the simulator. Then he decided he was going to try it in the real world, but physics. Okay? But physics. From my knowledge, right, Sebastian Vettel has been the only one who's been able to do that DRS wide open, taking that turn with the DRS wide open. These two are not the same drivers. Okay? We're talking about Tetra champion Sebastian Vettel and Jack Doohan, who still got to prove himself, right? And so Doohan wrecks the car, right? So if it is in fact true that he was testing out something that he tried in the simulator, it is not looking good for Jack, all right? And it's not looking good for Jack because he is somebody who cannot afford to make a ton of mistakes. And so we shall see what happens. But again, word on the street is that he had a secret, or Colapinto had a secret test in Monza, and so it looks like they are prepping him to replace Doohan. If it does happen, my money is on Miami. There's a lot of Argentine fans in Miami. We'll see. It's all speculation. It's all rumor. I know I'm not going to be the only content creator, the only podcaster who is going to say that, but Doohan is not really doing himself any favors. And probably out of the rookies, he is somewhere at the bottom. Now, granted, Alpine itself, they are the only team who have not scored any points. Gasly has 0 points, which is a little bit surprising to me. But again, see qualifying, right? Gasly can't qualify super high, and so he's not able to get that car into the points because no one's able to make any passes or any significant ones that are into the points, right? So yeah, Alpine hasn't scored, Gasly hasn't scored, Doohan hasn't scored. So we'll see what happens. Now, what else happened in this race? The next thing I want to talk a little bit about Williams. Williams, I think, has been doing really well. I'm a big fan of James Vowles. If you've been watching this podcast for a long time, you know that me personally, I like Vols as a TP. I'm going to make an apology on this show. I'm someone who, if you can prove me wrong, I have zero qualms. Or if somebody sends me something, hey, dog, you're off base, I will apologize. Here's my apology to you, Alex Albon. I am so sorry for ever doubting you because I thought Carlos Sainz was going to come into this team and baptize you. He was going to dunk on you because you never had any teammates that were worthwhile. I'm wrong. Carlitos Sainz came to your house, Alex Albon, and I am so sorry. It has not even been close. Their head-to-head has not been close. Sainz, I'm going to extend Sainz the same courtesy and the same wherewithal and the same whatever that we're extending to Lewis Hamilton. It's like he's coming to a new team. He's trying to figure everything out. He doesn't know the car yet, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. Okay, cool. Alex Albon, I'm sorry. I thought yeah. And honestly, perhaps the reason we don't rate or we didn't rate me personally, let me not say we, people, myself, didn't rate Alex Albon is because I was comparing Alex Albon to a Logan Sargent. Terrible. I was comparing Alex Albon to a Franco Colapinto, who was exciting to watch, but also was mistake prone towards the end. I still love Franco, right? I was comparing Alex Albon to a plethora of teammates who weren't worth anything, frankly. And so I thought surely when Alex gets a teammate that is good, because Carlos Sainz is good, he's going to be an afterthought. And that hasn't happened. So congrats to Alex Albon for doing exactly what you've been doing and proving doubters like myself wrong. All right. Now, what was interesting about Albon during this race was he went at it with his engineer. He is dressing this man down on the radio. Now, if that had been my dad, not that the engineer is Alex Albon's dad, if I had spoken to someone like that specifically, I just flashbacks to me getting a pow pow for talking to anybody like that. But the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it's interesting that we have all of this hubbub of Lewis Hamilton during his first race yelling at Dami, his engineer, which Lewis wasn't yelling at him at all, and the narrative around that about how Lewis is this, Lewis is aggressive, Lewis is da 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 da. Today is the day, several hours after the race, I have not heard anybody criticizing Alex Albon for how he spoke to his engineer. Honestly, I gotta stop making these comparisons, right? Yeah. It's just an interesting note for you to have, for you to store in there. So, anyways, but Albon finishes in the points. Great race by him. Williams is doing great this year. Carlos Sainz had terrible qualifying, terrible race, was not into the points. I'm going to extend the courtesy of saying you're still getting used to the car. Okay, cool, awesome. But yeah, outside of that, Fernando Alonso still hasn't scored a point. Lance Stroll is ahead of Alonso with 10 points on the season. Just facts, all right? Just facts, all right? This is not me saying that Lance Stroll is better than Fernando Alonso. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's interesting what's been going on. Okay, maybe he's saving it all for next year for the new rocket ship, but maybe he may not even get to drive it if they kick him off the team to put Max Verstappen in that seat. I don't know. George Russell had another quiet race. Finished the race in, I think, P5. Let's look at this. Yep, finished the race in P5. Charles Leclerc had another uneventful race. He did super well, did as best as that car could. Ended up P4. Great. Ferrari, apparently they're having issues with their car. They're getting upgrades in Bahrain. Lewis Hamilton did say something interesting about the damage to, I don't know if it's his floor specifically, that being the reason why the car may be slow or doesn't go any faster than it is. Now, if that's true, then that's even more incredible that he was able to win the sprint in China. But also, again, more to my point of he qualified P1, or he got pole in China for the sprint and was not able to be passed out on track. So we will look to Ferrari to see what's going to happen when they bring those upgrades. The floor is going to be the thing that they're going to upgrade. Now, Vasseur is saying, Fred is saying that the balance is something that they need to sort out. It feels like Lewis and Charles are saying two very different things. Like Charles is saying, this is as far as I can take this car. I did the best, but I can't go any further. Lewis is saying, there's still things I'm encouraged by the baseline that we have in the car, but there's still things that I need to sort out. And then Fred comes in and says, yeah, actually what we need to fix is the balance, whatever. And so we'll see. Supposedly the car has more potential when they bring that upgrade in Bahrain, which obviously is the test track. We shall see. Now the weather in Bahrain might be different than actual testing back in February. So we'll see. But yeah, hey y'all, another a short episode because frankly, again, and I'll be watching all my favorite content creators to see how they talk about this race, but my honest opinion, all right, this race was not super exciting. It was not. But again, congratulations to Max Verstappen pulling that out of left field in a car that is finicky, but still fast. Great. McLaren, fix your house. All right. Fix up your house. Okay. This is not, if you are truly trying to be a contender, you are going to fumble a championship right into the hands of Max Verstappen, who does know what to do when he has the opportunity. Okay. True champions do. Corny line that everybody says. You put that McLaren in Verstappen, Hamilton, and Alonso's hands, they're gone. It's a no-brainer. All right. So, McLaren, please fix up your house. Okay. Either that or Ferrari, please join. I can't watch another season or a season of McLaren fumbling while Red Bull, specifically Max Verstappen, is eating their lunch. So, but yeah. So final classification of everybody where they finish is somewhere down here in the ticker. Same thing with the constructors standings, same thing with the driver standings. So that's race 3 done. We have another race coming up in Bahrain. I'm not going to give you a Parihuayo or Matatan of this race, but I am going to post that on my Instagram for y'all to see. So again, it's another call out to y'all. If you have stayed this far, please comment, like, subscribe. It costs nothing. That's it. Just, hey, support that. Get that out there to more people. But that is it. That is it for my Japanese Grand Prix review. I will see y'all in Bahrain for the Bahrain race review. As always, please, please, please comment, like, subscribe. Tell your mommies, your papis, your tios, abuelas. For the Monoplaza F1 podcast, I'm your host, Emi Bertre. Peace.